Today I want to show you some examples of how important is time in setting up the exposure. Hey everyone, my name is Toma, Phototom here on YouTube, and this channel is all about landscape and travel photography. So if you're interested in this kind of topics, make sure to subscribe, hit the subscribe over there to learn more about this topic. If you want to further support me, you can buy my landscape photography ebook where I talk about the way I see landscape photography, and I showcase 50 case studies where I present my ideas and I talk about the importance of the subject, composition rules, settings, gear, all sorts of things that I think are important for landscape photography. Now let's get back to the topic from today and talk about how important is time in setting the exposure. I want to talk about this topic in relation to a certain subject because in all the other cases, you can compensate with aperture and ISO. So I think a particular situation when you have to be very aware of what exposure time you're using is when you're photographing waterfalls or water streams. And the reason for that is because the beginner landscape photographer tends to think that you should have a completely white veil in the surface of the water, and by that I mean you need to get an exposure that is long enough that will make the water just a I don't know, like a white blanket with no details in it. I will show you some examples, but first I want to talk about the concept of the principles, how you should think about when you're photographing waterfalls and water streams. It's going to be very short, and then I'm going to get to the case studies. Now, when you're photographing a water surface and the water flows rapidly, so I'm not talking about lakes, I'm talking about waterfalls or water streams that are flowing, you need to have an exposure time that will get the feeling of motion. You don't have to do an exposure time that it's that long that you end up with a completely white surface. First of all, you need to retain detail in every aspect of the scene. So you don't have to go overboard. If you're having overexposed areas in the water, then it's not okay. But even if you don't have overexposed areas, as I will show you in the case studies, you'll see that you're losing details. So you need to find an exposure time that it's long enough to capture the movement of the water and short enough to actually see the fine details of the water stream flowing down. The first situation that I want to share with you is this one over here, where I have a water stream flowing from the right going into the cave over here. So if you look at the histogram, let's make it a little bit bigger. I don't have completely underexposed areas or overexposed areas. The exposure time is 1/30th of a second, f8, 19 millimeters, and ISO 320. As you can see, I had to raise the ISO for this in order to have this exposure time. I've experimented with different exposure times, and this was the only one that captured the movement of the water. This photo is not edited, but the idea is to have the motion of the water, to have every detail. That this splash over here looks really well, and I have enough information in the shadows to retrieve everything. Now let me show you a version which is not okay for this image. This is almost overexposed. If we go in the develop module and we activate this over here to show highlight clipping, you see there is not any highlight clipping, but this is not okay. Let's just drag the exposure. So if you're going with the exposure down, you're getting few of the details, but there are areas that are not retaining all that detail. So this version like this, it's a much better one. Let's go to this image over here. So in this situation, I have 0.6 seconds, f11, and ISO 100. Now, as you can see, I'm losing the detail in this area over here. And this is 0.6 seconds and f11. If I go to 0.3 seconds, I have a lot more detail. There is still a little bit of problem in this small area over here. As you can see, now we are at 100%. Let's go at 200%. So it's not losing detail, but it could have been a lot better. These are the things that I'm looking for, these small details. Whenever I have a situation like this is not good. So this is better than this one, but this is not perfect. Now there is a situation. I will show you this situation over here. So I'm not losing detail. As you can see, there are not areas that are overexposed, but I'm having a simple white spot. Then so the exposure time is 1.3 seconds f22. Sometimes it happens. So you need to close the aperture and have certain values in order to have a certain exposure time. So in this case, I closed the aperture to f22 in order to have a longer exposure, thinking that it will look okay. So it didn't look okay, and I went back with still f22. And as you can see, I have ISO 3200. In this case, I have ISO 100. And I increased the ISO that much to have 1/25th of a second, but it was too short. And then I moved to another exposure when I have ISO 640 and 1/5 of a second. And this is a much better exposure because you get to see, let's look at 100%. You get to see all these fine details in the water. You have information about how the water flows, not just the information that it's water over there. And this is the final example where I'm showing you an image ISO 50, f11 and 57 seconds. This is not conserving all the small streams of water, but in my personal opinion, this is a situation when it looks okay because you're having a bigger picture and these small streams look okay. The only thing that right now I think I could have done better was to do an exposure like this for this upper part, and then do another exposure for this area over here where I have details in the water, and then combine the two images to have only one image and have the details in the water in this region, and above have the image as it is right now. Okay, that was it for today, and I hope this was useful for you. And next time you're photographing a waterfall or a water stream, you're going to think about this. If you find this useful, please leave a comment below. And what else? Until next time, keep on photographing. It's the only way to get better. Bye bye.